The first progression we're going to be going over is what I call volume progression. Now, volume is always, we want all of our aerobic training to be volume based, and as in that's how we progress it. But in this case, we're referring to a progression in which volume is the only factor that is being increased throughout the training split. Let's consider the aforementioned scenario of the 20-minute row. We have our client, we tested her, she was able to row the 20 minutes at a 2-minute per 500 meter pace. We know that that would be her MAP 6 pace. We also know that MAP 6 intervals are structured in roughly 5 minutes of work to roughly 3 minutes of rest. So we have two options in which we can set this up. One, we can say row 5 minutes at a 2-minute per 500 meter row pace, rest 3 minutes, do it again, and then do it again and again and again, depending on how many sets we want to prescribe. Or we can make it task-oriented, in which we'll say row 1,250 meters at a 2-minute per 500 meter row pace. Now, this is not a random distance. It's because 1,250 meters at 2 minutes will yield around 5 minutes. Now, let's take a look at what the progression would look like. For one, and I'll go back and remind you of some CCP concepts here, we want to run these progressions for 6 to 8 weeks before we go into higher intensities. That's about how long most people will take to adapt and to actually be able to take advantage to the work that has been put together during that past training phase or split. Notice that during the first 4 weeks, it's literally the same workout, and the only thing that we are increasing is going to be the amounts of sets. So we go from 3 sets to 4 to 5 to 6. Very simple prescription. We're just increasing volume every week for 6 weeks. Then in the 4 weeks after that, we're going to slightly be increasing the distance in each set. And you're going to say, well, we're rowing the same distance, or we're rowing slightly more distance at the same pace. It's going to go slightly past the 5 minutes. And that's okay. One of the things you don't want to do is be too rigid in how you interpret the MAP continuum. 5 minutes is more or less the same dose as 6 minutes of work, which is more or less the same dose as 4 minutes of work. So a little bit more, a little bit less, that's okay. So after the 4th week, we're going to stay at 6 sets, and we're going to slightly increase the distance by 50 meters to 1,300 meters. Next week, another 50. Next week, another 50. 8th and final week, another 50. Now, again, one of the biggest mistakes that people make here is trying to overcomplicate things. And cyclical aerobic training is a lot of it has to do with simplicity. So in a volume progression, just figure out ways in which you can challenge the individual by adding more volume week to week. Next up, we'll take a look at work density progressions.